I've lived off-grid for 6 years now, and I've never heard anybody talk about off-grid etiquette. Outside of, talking to neighbors and things that they would like to see happen, I think maybe that's a topic that people should talk about a little bit more. And I think it pretty well boils down to keeping your homestead on your homestead, whether that's your animals, the noise you produce, the trash that you make. You should be a steward of the land and respect those that are in the community around you. Oops. So that might include fencing your property if you have to keep your dogs in, so they're not just running amok, causing problems. Getting into other people's livestock and feed, and maybe they've got a septic system or composting system they don't want your dog playing in. That might include training your dogs so they don't bark 24/7. It's one thing to have a livestock guardian dog that barks to announce that there's coyotes or something like that. But if your dogs bark constantly, you run to town for the weekend and your dogs don't stop barking for 72 hours, that might be something to consider. Another thing that nobody likes is to drive down dirt roads that are completely washboarded. And it's one thing to do 45, maybe the marked speed limit, and it's another to do 65. While maybe that's fun for you, what you're doing is you're tearing up the road and you washboard it so hard that later you can't drive more than 10 miles an hour on it anyway. And it would have just been better to do 45 the whole time, if you understand what I'm saying. And another thing is when it rains really hard, if you go out immediately and put huge ruts in the road, well, you're not just affecting yourself, you're tearing up the roads for everybody. Of course, these aren't laws. I'm not telling you what to do. You own your land and you do have a lot of freedom. It's not whether you can or can't do some things. That's not necessarily what etiquette is. Sometimes it just wouldn't hurt to be considerate of the other people around you. I made a short video talking about this the other day, and a lot of you guys pitched in with ideas that you might consider for off-grid living etiquette. I'll need a bigger bowl. So Yvonne mentioned maintaining your fences, and the point is to keep your animals on your homestead, and that can be done without a fence at all. But if you need to have a fence to keep your animals on your homestead and other people's animals off, maintaining that fence is a good way to get it done. Even if you just fence 1 acre around your immediate homestead, that's a lot more cost effective, a lot easier to maintain, and a good way to keep your animals where they should be, rather than running around where they shouldn't be. I live way out in the middle of nowhere, so I haven't personally experienced this, but this guy points out that he's surprised how many people pull into his drive to turn around, and really, if you can avoid that, you don't need to pull into somebody else's drive. There could be a scenario where you just absolutely have to turn around, but there's main roads and whatnot most of the time you can turn around on, and that way you can avoid going down somebody's private drive in the middle of nowhere unannounced. I just realized I've got 150 pounds of feed there, so I may as well grab a wheelbarrow. This other guy's talking about, putting a lot of effort into maintaining his road, and then people just come down tearing it up. I can sympathize with that a lot. Even if it's the public road, I completely understand when, in example, there's a public road out here. It's been perfect for the last decade, and then somebody new moves in and decides that they need all kinds of different turnarounds and they're just going to drive all over the place when nobody else did that. The road was perfectly fine. And then, you know, wouldn't hurt to just keep those kind of things in mind, you know. Maybe there's a reason that there's not tire tracks all over the place. Oh yeah, fire pits and burn barrels. You know, for the most part, I don't think you're supposed to burn much more than just, you know, yard trimmings and maybe some cardboard, but whatever it is, you don't need to smoke out the neighbor, you know. I just got a massive cloud going right next to your neighbor's place. You could probably avoid that. Same with fire pits. I'm making up some dewormer for the horses, and the pigs said, how about us? I'll have to come back and give them some sweet feed. You know, somebody else mentioned, you know, don't just show up to somebody's place unannounced. That's probably a good rule, you know. I think it really does boil down mostly to just keeping your stuff on your homestead, you know. Oh, somebody else mentioned music. Like, not everybody wants to listen to whatever kind of music you listen to. Maybe if it's loud enough for you to hear, but quiet enough that the neighbor doesn't have to listen to it, that might be thoughtful. You know. Yeah, you know, if you have to run a generator all the time, you could probably put a box around it to make it nearly silent. You just don't have to be a burden on everybody around you, you know. A lot of people move off grid to the middle of nowhere, into the wilderness, because it's peaceful and it's quiet. And you don't want to bring the city with you necessarily. You know, most land is owned by somebody. And people will come out to the main roads, you know, and just pull over and start cutting down trees for firewood and whatever. But that land is owned. And that's definitely a good way to piss off the person that owns that land. That and just driving your four-wheeler or going mudding on other people's private property, that's a pretty big no-no. If there's anything else you think I left out, go ahead and drop a comment below. You know, you can run an entire homestead like this and have little to no impact on the people around you, not in a negative way. And well, it's actually not very difficult to do. So I know most people don't talk about friendly off-grid etiquette, but maybe it wouldn't hurt.